particularly the freaking Cuomo, the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Cuomo. I made a TikTok about this a couple days ago, and this actually wasn't supposed to be a topic on the show, until the news broke. And you know how much I just love Chris Cuomo and how much I love CNN anchors, and how much I love CNN. They're the best institution on the face of the earth. Anyway, if you can tell, that's sarcasm. Chris Cuomo, my God, this guy, dude. I literally made a video and a TikTok, not a TikTok, but I made a YouTube video. It's called something about the Cuomos, my thoughts on the Cuomos or something. Way back in August, for 5th episode of the Chang Gavi Show, I talked about the Cuomos. I talked about Andrew Cuomo and the sexual assault and all of that. And I basically said, I called Chris Cuomo out. I was like, bro, you call yourself a journalist. You call yourself an anchor. Why are you not standing up for, or why are you not standing up for journalism? Why are you protecting your own brother's ass? And like, I understand, like, that's your brother, that's blood, all of that stuff. I'll happily tell my brother right now, you ever meet two people and I'm some famous podcaster who has media connections, I'm sorry, I'm not going to use them to try to protect you if you did something like that. I'd tell you you were wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. I know that offended him and he's probably sad. But no, I'm not going. If I was in Chris Cuomo's position, I would like to think that I would go on CNN and say what my brother did was wrong. Okay. But he didn't. And instead, he was having secret strategy sessions and, plotting ways to use his journalistic sources, his media sources who are well connected within various newspapers throughout the country, as well as, television. And he used them to try and make sure that stories about his brother were literally being erased. Are you serious? And CNN still hasn't fired him. They have indefinitely suspended him before they conduct their investigation. I swear to God, if Chris Cuomo is not fired, if Chris Cuomo is not blacklisted from the journalism world after this debacle, after putting personal interests ahead of telling the truth, I mean, he was never telling the truth in the first place. Chris Cuomo was always telling his own narrative of his progressive agenda that he wanted to put across, which clearly wasn't very progressive because, while at the same time he was championing me too. Yes, go stop sexual assault. His brother was sexually assaulting women left and right. Like, that's just the fact. He was a hypocrite. He is a hypocrite. He's a scumbag. He deserves to be sacked from CNN and never given a job in journalism ever again. But you know what? He'll probably write a book and make $5 million more. That's just the way the world works, unfortunately. But here's the thing. I don't think Chris Cuomo deserves to be, even like on CNN. I never thought, even before this stuff, I thought he was such a trash journalist. But the public sentiment is still pro this guy. You know how I can tell the public sentiment? I go up to my dad and I'm like, yo, you hear about the Chris Cuomo news? He's like, what happened? And I was like, I explained to him like, he was using his media sources to try and get ahead and protect his brother. He looks at me and he's like, Chris Cuomo's still a good journalist. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. This is the problem with talking heads in society, bro. Is like, people develop connections with these people because, they tell their stories and they discuss all of these things and they tell you what you want to hear for some of them, right? If you really preach them, like, that's why people love Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo and me, right? We tell you what you want to hear. We make you happy and you connect with us on a personal level. And then when you're implicated in some shit like this, people are like, oh no, I know him. My dad's like, I know Chris. He's a good guy. We talk every night. CNN. I'm like, dude, you don't know him. You don't know this man. You don't know anything he's ever done. He's not a real journalist. I don't know. Okay. That's just my thing. It's like the public will be right after these people. The public will defend Chris Cuomo. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people out there who are like, what did you do wrong exactly? When in reality, like, all journalists, like, I even talked to a journalist today. But I talked to Grant's dad. Like, he had a whole thing on Twitter. He was talking about, like, what were your thoughts on Cuomo? And I, kind of said my piece and I asked him, I said, as a journalist, do you think this is grounds of being fired? Because he revealed his sources and he used his sources to try to gain some personal advantage out of it. And he responded with one word. He said, yes. That's all I need to know. I asked a legit journalist, someone who's worked in sports journalism for 50 years. And he told me yes. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, right? I asked a legit person in the profession, is that grounds of being fired? Yeah. That's it. That's it. Chris Cuomo should be fired. Chris Cuomo should never see CNN ever again. Chris Cuomo should never touch a freaking newspaper ever again because this guy has used his journalistic sources to further advance his own career. So bye bye, Chris Cuomo. Bye bye. And maybe you can make a podcast like this where you talk about all the BS that you do. Except my podcast would probably be better than yours, Chris. It's a one person. Freaking hate Chris Cuomo. I don't freaking hate him, but like, I just freaking wow. Like he's just so irritating. He just does some stupid things. Anyway, enough about Chris Cuomo.